God is dead, now what? Nietzsche reveals how to survive without faith. God is dead. With those 3 words, Nietzsche didn't just challenge religion. He cracked the foundation of Western meaning. But most people misunderstand what he meant. He wasn't celebrating. He was warning. Because when God dies, so does everything built upon him. Morality, purpose, identity. And what's left? A terrifying freedom. Without divine authority, you are no longer told who you are, why you exist, or what is right. You are unanchored, unguarded, unguided. For most, that void is unbearable. They run back to old beliefs or numb themselves with distractions. But Nietzsche dared to ask the real question. If God is dead, what now? This is episode 6 of our Nietzschean awakening. And it's the most dangerous yet. Because in this chapter, you'll be forced to look into the abyss where certainty once lived, and build something real in its place. Like, subscribe, activate the bell, because if you've ever doubted everything, this one is for you. Void 1, the death of God is the death of certainty. When Nietzsche declared, God is dead, he wasn't talking about a literal death. He was diagnosing a crisis. The God he spoke of was the foundation of meaning, morality, order. The invisible structure that held the West together for centuries. And now it was gone. Not killed by violence but by doubt. Science, philosophy, modernity. They eroded the old myth. The sacred stories began to sound like fairy tales. And slowly, without realizing it, humanity stepped into a world without anchors. No divine law. No eternal purpose, no voice from above, just silence and the unbearable freedom that comes with it. Most people didn't even notice at first. They kept going to work, going to church, saying the right words. But underneath it all, something was cracking. Nietzsche saw it before anyone else. Without a transcendent center, the entire structure of Western meaning was collapsing. And the collapse wouldn't be obvious. It would be existential. Because when God dies, it's not just religion that falls, it's everything that depended on him. What is good? What is evil? Why sacrifice? Why suffer? Why live at all? The answers vanish, and in their place grows a void. Not chaos, but weightlessness. You're no longer guided, you're untethered. Nietzsche didn't celebrate this. He warned us. He saw that most people would not survive the void. They would replace God with cheap substitutes, political ideologies, moral superiority, consumerism, nationalism. They'd trade one dogma for another, never facing the terrifying truth. Meaning is now their responsibility. This is what Nietzsche meant by the most profound event of modern history. It wasn't just the loss of belief, it was the loss of certainty. And when certainty dies, you either awaken or you collapse. Most choose collapse. Quietly, respectably, numbed by distractions, rituals, and borrowed belief. But Nietzsche wasn't speaking to the masses. He was speaking to you. The one who feels the weight of the void. The one who knows the old answers don't work anymore. The one who refuses to fake belief just to feel safe. And if that's you, this pain you're feeling? It's not a flaw. It's awakening. To face a godless world is to grow up spiritually. It's to leave behind the comforts of childhood and stand naked in the mystery of existence. And in that rawness, something holy begins to stir, not from above, but from within. So yes, God is dead. But that doesn't mean truth is gone. It means truth must now be created, not inherited. Not handed down, but pulled up from the fire of your own being. That's not the end of meaning. That's the beginning of authorship. Most will retreat into old illusions. Some will collapse into nihilism. But a few, the ones Nietzsche called the creators of values, will rise. They will look into the abyss, not with fear, but with resolve. And they will say, if no God will save me, I will become the ground I stand on. So now I ask you, what part of your life still clings to certainty, just to avoid the terrifying freedom of truth? Drop it in the comments. This is where the real journey begins. Void 2. The abyss after belief. What fills the silence when faith is gone? When the voice of God disappears, the silence that follows is deafening. Nietzsche understood that. He saw the abyss, not as poetic metaphor, but as brutal experience. The collapse of belief doesn't bring clarity. It brings emptiness. And in that emptiness, most people break. Because faith didn't just give people answers. It gave them identity. It told them who they were, why they mattered, what they were supposed to do. Without it, the structure collapses. And standing in the ruins, you begin to feel a question burning in your chest. Now what? For some, the answer is denial. Pretend the collapse never happened. Go back to church, recite the words, fake the peace. For others, it's distraction. Scroll, consume, numb. But Nietzsche wasn't interested in denial or distraction. He asked the harder question, what can we build when nothing is given? This is where nihilism appears. When all meaning seems like illusion, when every truth feels constructed, the temptation is to give up entirely. Why bother? Why create, love, strive? But Nietzsche didn't fear nihilism. He saw it as a doorway. A brutal one, yes, but necessary. Because only when everything false has fallen can the real begin to rise. The abyss is not the end. It's the space where you are finally free to create. Not out of comfort, but out of confrontation. Not to escape the silence, but to answer it. But here's the truth most won't admit. That silence will break you first. It will make you question your sanity. It will strip away your certainty, your identity, your inherited morality. And in that wreckage, something begins to flicker. Not hope, not faith, fire. Nietzsche believed in that fire. He called it the will to power, not domination, but creation. The inner drive to shape meaning from the void. To become not a believer, but a creator. Someone who doesn't ask what life means, but gives it meaning through their very being. That's terrifying, because it means there are no more excuses. No more commandments to hide behind. No more gods to blame. You are now the artist, the author, the architect of your soul. And what you build will either set you free or swallow you whole. The abyss doesn't kill you. It invites you to rise, to speak, to carve out a world so honest, so hard-earned, that it becomes sacred. Not because it was given, but because you bled for it. This is the post-faith world Nietzsche saw coming. Not a world without truth, but a world where truth had to be forged in fire, not received from heaven. So tell me, when your old beliefs fell away, what silence rose in their place? And what are you ready to create from that silence? Void 3. Freedom without faith is not peace, it's burden. Most people think freedom is the goal, but Nietzsche knew that real freedom, the kind you get after the death of faith, is not peace. It's pressure. Because without God, without commandments, without cosmic justice, you become the source. The weight of your life falls on your shoulders. And that burden is unbearable for most. No one is coming to save you. There is no divine reward. No punishment. No meaning waiting at the end of the path. There is only what you build. That kind of freedom doesn't feel like liberation. It feels like a storm, like standing at the edge of a cliff and realizing you must fly or fall. Nietzsche saw that when belief collapses, responsibility explodes. You can no longer blame fate. You can no longer outsource your morality to a book or your purpose to a priest. Every choice you make, every value you live, must come from within. And that is terrifying. Because there is no one left to answer to, except yourself. This is the burden of becoming human. Not a follower, not a servant, not a child of God, but a creator of meaning in a world without map. And it's here, in this unbearable freedom, that the true transformation begins. Many run from it. They want the old yoke back, the comforting shoulds, the ready-made meaning. But you're still here. You're still listening. Which means part of you knows the truth. If someone else gives you the meaning of your life, it was never really yours. Nietzsche didn't promise comfort. He offered dignity. The dignity of standing in the fire of freedom, and refusing to run. The dignity of saying, I will not bow to illusion, even if it kills me, because sometimes it must kill you, the old you, the obedient you, the one who needed permission. What rises from those ashes is not a believer, not a cynic, but something higher, a new kind of human, one who doesn't need belief to act or faith to love, one who creates values not to please a god, but to honor their own soul. So I ask you, what part of you still wants to be saved? And what part is ready to carry the weight of being truly free? Void 4. The Creator replaces the worshipper. Nietzsche believed that the next stage of human evolution wouldn't be a better believer. It would be the Creator. The one who no longer worships ideals, but gives birth to them. The one who no longer kneels before truth, but forges it with blood, vision, and will. When God dies, the throne doesn't stay empty. Something will always try to sit in that space. For most people, it's ideology, tribalism, addiction, celebrity, politics. But for the few, for those willing to walk through the fire, something else emerges: authorship. You stop asking, what is the meaning of life? You start asking, what meaning can I create through the way I live, speak, build, burn? You stop searching for commandments and start creating code. Not to control others, but to liberate yourself. This is not easy. It's not poetic. It's painful. Because the worshipper gets applause. The worshipper is seen as virtuous. But the Creator? The Creator is feared, misunderstood, crucified. Because creation demands destruction, and most people can't handle that kind of fire. Nietzsche's Übermensch, the Overman, is not a tyrant. He is a spiritual artist, one who has walked through nihilism, past false morality, and into the dangerous clarity of self-mastery. He doesn't follow meaning, he becomes it. In his actions, in his solitude, in his refusal to compromise. You feel this in yourself, the tension between worship and creation, between safety and sovereignty, between belief and authorship. You know that your fire wasn't meant to burn in a temple. It was meant to build something that's never existed before. So ask yourself, are you still waiting for a voice from the sky, or are you ready to become the voice the world needs to hear? Void 5, the fall of eternal morality. Now you must choose. When belief in God collapses, morality loses its anchor. What was once eternal becomes arbitrary. The commandments dissolve, the sins become negotiable, and the voice that once said, "Thou shalt not," goes silent. Nietzsche understood this silence not as liberation, but as danger. Because without God, nothing tells you what to do. And that means everything is up to you. It sounds like freedom, but it feels like chaos. When no divine law governs your actions, you are thrown into a realm where every choice must be made from scratch. You can no longer ask, is this allowed? You must now ask, do I believe in this? Am I willing to live with it? The weight is immense. Most people will try to bring the old rules with them into this godless world. They will cling to borrowed codes, inherited guilt, moral echoes. But Nietzsche called this intellectual laziness. Because if the foundation has collapsed, you can't just reuse the bricks. You must rebuild from the ground up. This is where true responsibility begins. Not the shallow responsibility of obeying laws, but the terrifying authorship of values. Nietzsche believed morality should come from within, from the self made strong by suffering, solitude, and becoming, not from dusty scriptures or inherited guilt. To create your own morality is to look life in the eye and say, I choose this. Not because I fear punishment, not because I seek reward, but because it is right by my measure. That measure must be earned, sharpened, forged. This is the work of a lifetime. But be warned, the herd will hate you for it. They will call you dangerous, immoral, lost. Why? Because the moment you choose your values, you reject theirs. Your independence feels like an attack. Your clarity exposes their compromise. Nietzsche didn't care about approval. He cared about truth. And in a post-faith world, truth is not discovered, it is created. That creation comes with agony, but it also comes with dignity, because now when you act as a whole being, not as a puppet. This new morality is not relative. It is not soft. It is not about doing what feels good. It is about living with depth, acting from soul, holding your choices like fire, with reverence, with danger, with awe. So what are your values? If no one told you what to believe, what would you say is right? And can you live it even when the world calls you wrong? Your answers will not be easy, but they will be yours. And in this world of recycled truths, that might be the rarest virtue of all. Tell me, what old commandment are you finally ready to let die? Void 6, meaning is no longer found, it must be forged. In a godless world, there are no map, no sacred script, no divine assignment. The question, why am I here, doesn't echo in the heavens anymore. It echoes back in silence. And Nietzsche knew, the silence is your signal to begin. You were trained to search for answers, for destiny, for meaning. But in this new world, there is nothing to find, only something to build. Nietzsche's message was clear. Stop searching for meaning. Start forging it. Forging is not hoping. It is not asking. It is not waiting. Forging is sweat, heat, steel. It is taking your suffering, your struggle, your uniqueness, and shaping them into something that justifies your existence. This is why Nietzsche loved creators, artists, poets, rebels, not because they had answers, but because they had the will to make something out of nothing. They didn't worship meaning. They constructed it. But here's the brutal truth. The forge is personal. No one can do it for you. No system, no religion, no philosophy. You must enter the fire alone. And what you build there, your purpose, your code, your path, will not be understood by the masses. It may not even be understood by you. But it will be real. And in a world of borrowed ideas, real is divine. Your daily actions become your scripture. Your relationships become your altar. Your pain becomes your teacher. There is no final judgment, only your own reflection. And the question, was this worth becoming? Nietzsche didn't want you to chase happiness. He wanted you to chase authenticity. To live a life so charged with truth that even your suffering glows with purpose. This is meaning. Not comfort. Not approval. Not reward. But a deep, personal yes to the fire of your existence. So I ask, what are you willing to suffer for? What could you build that would make the struggle sacred? Leave it in the comments. Let the world see what the forge has shaped in you. Void 7, the sacred madness of becoming your own God. To survive the death of God is one thing. To step into the space he left behind is another. Nietzsche's final challenge is the most dangerous. You must become the creator now. Not of the universe, but of yourself. This is not blasphemy. It is rebirth. Not arrogance, but responsibility. When no one else defines you, you must define yourself. When there is no divine plan, you must become the plan. It is sacred work. It is terrifying work. Because you are building without blueprint, living without guarantees, and sculpting your soul in the dark, guided only by a whisper you can barely hear. Nietzsche called this becoming the Übermensch, the overman. The one who doesn't look up for answers, but inward. Who doesn't seek salvation, but transformation. Who doesn't inherit values, but births them through fire. Most will never try. They will retreat into dogma, ideology, or distraction. They will laugh at you, call you lost. But you are not lost. You are becoming. And that process is not clean. It is wild. It is holy. The old world offered certainty. This path offers vision. And vision hurts before it heals. It isolates before it frees. But once you taste its power, you will never go back. Because you will have become something terrifyingly rare. A human being who stands on nothing and yet does not fall. A soul that sings without a choir. A fire that burns without permission. This is not for the faint of heart. This is for those who would rather suffer for truth than sleep in illusion. who would rather walk alone in the storm than sit safely in someone else's shelter. So I ask you one final time, if no God is coming, what kind of God will you become? Leave your answer below. Someone else is waiting for permission to rise. In the silence where God once spoke, you begin. The world you once trusted has gone silent. The sky no longer answers. The rules are broken, the meanings erased, and the comfort of faith has turned to fire. But Nietzsche never asked you to mourn. He asked you to rise. Because when God is gone, what remains is not despair, it's space. Space to become something no belief ever dared to imagine. You have walked through the collapse. You've stood in the silence, in the weight, in the abyss. And if you're still here, it means you're ready. Ready to stop searching and start forging. Ready to stop kneeling and start creating. Ready to stop asking for light and become it. Not as a savior, not as a prophet, but as a sovereign being who no longer needs to be saved. And in the final episode, you're not as strong as you think. Nietzsche breaks the illusion. We'll face the last illusion head-on, your idea of strength. Because what you call power may just be fear in disguise. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, and share this episode with someone still waiting for answers to fall from the sky. Because maybe they were born to give the answer instead.